Thank you for tuning in to the Failed Podcast. I am your host, Sam Esquivel. And today, I just wanted to come on here, do an episode to let y'all know that I enjoy the learning process, right? Because when you're in the learning process, you have to humble yourself and you have to say, you know what? I'm teaching myself something I didn't know. I have to respect others from where they come from based on what they learn, because some people don't have it in them to learn from someone else, and that in itself is a talent, you know. And so I hope that you, the listener, are able, well, if you're listening to the Failed Podcast, you are, and thank you so much. But as we find ourselves around people, my hope is that we find ourselves around people that enjoy learning from others. And so today I have been scrolling through the webs and just reading things about failure to see what's out there, what people are saying. And so here we go. I'm going to touch on a few things, some reasons for failures, you know, and some of it applies to personal, some of it applies to, let's say, organizations such as nonprofits and stuff like that, as well as like industry. But they're interchangeable because they all funnel to an individual, right? And obviously there's systems and processes. I understand that as well. And you always have to kind of evaluate where you are and then adjust what you learn so it fits for your particular journey. But here we go. Today, I don't know how many points I'm going to have. I'm just going to be reading a few things and we'll just see how it goes. You know, leave us a comment, like, and follow us. Don't forget, send us a message on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is at @the_failed_podcast. And the image is this, but no hands, lights. Here we go. Inadequate training. Inadequate knowledge, right? That's the first thing that I have come across, and we wonder sometimes why we fail. And no one likes to fail, but there is a such thing as going into something without the proper preparation, right? We'll say training. So if you're gonna, for example, start a potato company, and you make the best loaded potatoes in Texas, you better have worked with someone who knows how to cook them. You better have visited a farm that, grows potatoes. You better understand what kind of water, temperature, what makes a good potato, a bad potato, what the colors mean. There's so much depth that goes into training. And so let's just say you don't have enough training in what you want to do. You're going to be able to you're going to be able to not take responsibility if a fail happens. You're going to say to yourself and to others, it just didn't work out. The supply demand chain was flawed, and no one makes good potatoes, and the kitchen is inappropriate, and the equipment I have is just not good enough for what I want to do with these amazing potatoes. It's not me, it's everything else. But if you had the proper training, right? If you anticipated what you needed to do, you had firsthand experience in making those potatoes, right? From start to finish. All of those things you cannot use, and they may cause a bit of a challenge, but they will not be your reason for failing, because you have covered so much of the basics that's required to step into your potato or delicious Texas potato company, right? That sounds pretty good. Think about it. I mean, I've had potatoes with meat, potatoes with cheese, potatoes, all kinds of potatoes, sweet potato, regular potatoes, small potatoes, big potatoes. And yeah, there you go. Inadequate training can lead to failure, and for sure can lead to many challenges. But the only one that can be blamed for that is one's self. It's up to you. It's your responsibility. You can't pass it on to someone else. You have to gain knowledge in what you're going to do. So let's just say you have 10 ways that you can fail, and your training covers, 6 things, right? Whoop, this way. So you only have 3 unforeseen or unprepared or problems and challenges that you just can't see that are coming. So you just reduced it by a lot because you decided to do a little bit more, right? And the next one kind of connects, and I'll just put it out. There's a lack of information, and training is doing it. Information is what it takes to do it. Licensing, paying taxes, having a proper LLC, learning how to pay people. Those type of things can also set you up to fail and get you in big trouble. And so, you know what? This connects to learning. Training is learning. A lack of information is a lack of learning. So sometimes the idea is so vague and it's so big that if that's all you're going on, you're setting yourself up to fail. Forget the challenges. Failure is just going to grow. The odds of failing are increasing. So the lack of information, right? You have to learn about your industry, learn about your organization, your nonprofit. What are systems? What are processes? How are you going to pitch it? How are you going to write it out? How are you going to invoice? All these things that are required to, to have the finished product. And the finished product might be something fun and cool that everyone likes. But there's a backside to it that if you don't take care of it, you can lie to yourself for a while, but eventually it will catch up to you. And so lack of information can make you believe that just the hype alone is good enough. And so, to increase your chances of succeeding, learn in the sense of training and in the sense of information around what you want to do, So there you go. Let me hit y'all with another one. Low confidence. Okay. Now, a lot of people who entrepreneurs, they want to start their own business, they have great ideas. For the most part, they don't lack confidence, but sometimes, low confidence keeps you from even taking the first step. So what's the confidence in? You could say, have confidence in yourself. Yes, that's easy. But we do lie to ourselves sometimes about our abilities and stuff like that. And so what else can you have low confidence in? Your abilities, low confidence to sell, low confidence to go into to hire a lawyer, low confidence to do several things. So when you have enough confidence, you can go into a situation where maybe you shouldn't be in, or have a conversation with someone who's way past, way ahead, of where you're at, but you're confident and you know what you're going to say, and you walk in there with your head held high, and that changes everything. Imagine going back to the potato company that you want to sell it at an arena where there's concerts and events, and they just have nothing but big companies in there, and everyone spends a bunch of money on their lease to have a spot in there, and you're just starting off and you've done your training and you're knowledgeable. You're going to need confidence to prepare your pitch so you can go and sell it. You're going to need confidence to figure out who's in charge, find that individual, email them, call them, find them in person, figure out a way to put yourself in front of someone. And when you're in front of them, that confidence, it's going to show in how you sell what it is that you're trying to sell. And so you increase your odds of failing if you have low confidence. So I want to encourage you to believe in yourself, believe in your idea. And by training and gaining knowledge, I believe that that's going to help build that confidence that's required. Because when that confidence is high, when there's a hiccup, when there's a challenge, it's going to knock you back a little bit, but it's not going to break you, and you're going to be able to proceed, because nothing is easy. It just seems easy, especially if you're just like an Instagram dude and you're just looking at all the highlights on Instagram. Nothing is easy. Everything takes time, work, and sacrifice, and challenges will show up. And, you know, that's just the way it is. The next one, complex systems, okay? So there's any kind of business, whether it is the potato business, whatever, there's some things that are very difficult that are going to be involved. If you're engineering planes, if you're engineering or trying to develop software, you might have the idea, you know, instead of software, like an app for a phone, and you have the general idea, which is amazing, but to write out the code that works on all the phones and updates and all of that stuff that I have no clue about that works behind and in the phone, that's complex. That's complex systems. And so the big idea has to kind of take a back seat for a little bit, and you have to focus in on the details, the difficult details, how something gets made, how it works, why, you know, developers charge what they charge. Do you know, how are you going to handle problems? How are you going to handle growth, especially if you're doing like an app? You don't want to grow by hundreds. You want to grow by hundreds of thousands and millions of users. And that comes with its own complex problems and challenges. And so think about that. Don't ignore the difficult things and just assume that they're going to take care of themselves. Start looking into it right away and it might require you to get the right people to step in and fix what that is, or how to make it work, you know? And this other one, I like this one. I think it's great. You're going to need a journal for this one. You're going to have to kind of learn to document for yourself, because sometimes you're going to document something that you don't really need at the moment. But if it's there, you may need it later. So you're going to have to learn how to note take and such. And I'll explain that a little bit more. It's not learning from your past mistakes. And so you make certain mistakes and you think, oh, I'm not going to hit those mistakes again because that was in the beginning. I'm a lot bigger now. And so that's not going to happen again. But it's the mentality, and it's what, you know, and let's just say you do have the potato business and you may not go through it again because it's way past you and you have employees and money. You can fix things a lot easier. But think about if you franchise it and you have another business, that individual just might go through that challenge and failure. And so by documenting it, notating it somewhere, you can always go back and remind yourself of what you went through and how you went through that challenge and came out of it. It's valuable to you, but it's also valuable to someone else. But we have to learn to document and notate what we go through so we don't forget. And that's why we get these lessons from challenges and failures. This one's interesting. A lack of strategic communication. So I can just kind of sum that up to say a lack of good communication. When you're doing anything, I mean, very few things require a solo act. There's always people, things, and all kinds of stuff involved where you have to communicate what you want, how much something costs, you know, what the contract, what the deal is going to be. And you can't just, you know, nowadays it'd be nice, but you can't just do a handshake and say, oh, I'll take care of it if you do your part. Because if something goes wrong, you're pretty much setting yourself up to fail, and then there's no recourse. And so when you lack strategic communication, you're leaving a lot of things unsaid that need to be said, even though they're hard. And as stuff gets developed and as stuff grows, we don't want to have difficult conversations on who's going to pay who and when and what I charge, and this is my product, and I don't do that, I can't do this. That's difficult because when you're growing, you're just like, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. I don't want to lose a client. I don't want to lose a donor. I don't want to do this. But those, you know, having a plan and knowing what you're going to do and communicating that properly, it only helps you build what you want to build. And in the world of business and nonprofit and all that good stuff, like, there's tough conversations that always happen, you know, in the boardrooms and stuff. We don't get to see it unless you're just in that position. But I'm telling you, man, if you're doing something that's going to impact a lot of people, you're going to find yourself in a room where you are going to have to be strategic in what you say. And if you're not, and you leave a lot of blank spots and assumptions, you're setting yourself up to fail. You're setting, you're pretty much making, you're setting challenges ahead of you that you're going to stumble across just because you're not clear. And so start practicing on your message and what it is that you're trying to do. Learn how to speak up for yourself and not be rude, but just be honest and say what needs to happen. And yeah, those are just a few things that I thought would be kind of cool to share, and I hope it helped you. And there's just so much we can do to minimize failure and to manage challenges, but we don't take the time to train, and we don't take the time to learn. And so I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. I know I did. I'm going to put some notes in the description below. I'm going to put some links to some of our social media. And don't forget to follow us, share, and give us a comment as we're trying to grow what we're doing here. And thank you so much for listening to the Failed Podcast. There you go. My voice was getting a bit tired, but I enjoyed this time with you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Don't forget, when challenges confront you, just put your dukes up and do what you can, man. Fight for what you're doing. Fight for your dream. Fight for whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's not going to be easy, but you got to put in the work. Have a good one.